Okay. All right. Let's talk about worry. Where's our first group?
Yep.
So what we're talking about, why we worry. That was the first group, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's go.
Okay. So we discussed a few questions. And the first one was, it was kind of just a personal reflection about if we consider ourselves as people who worry. And on an average day, how often do we think people dwell on things that we have no control over? And we were talking about how we think that people worry because people worry all the time due to not knowing what to expect. And that we often are worrying and we don't like that we worry too much. And that what we worry about is different for everyone. And that it's a spectrum. So there's lots of dot points. We have a quote from Kung Fu Panda, thanks to John. Or was it John? Yes. We worry because we have no control, and so we must let go of the illusion of control. So we don't have control in our lives. Which brings us off to the next question was how much of the day is taken up worrying? And we were talking about how we worry because we like to think we're in control, but we need to remember that we're not actually in control, that we need to be humble and remember that God is the one in control. And we were talking about how we worry based on how much we let enter our consciousness. We think worry comes and goes depending on mood and actions, but it's also a choice. So we can't control it, but we can control whether it consumes us. So we're talking about like how worry in our everyday lives is not something that like we can avoid. It's not really a choice, but we can decide how much that controls us. Yeah. And we David mentioned a nice quote from Pope Carolus, and it was, have you ever known someone who trusted in God and was let down? Well, too bad we said it first, Paul. Sorry.
Oh my God.
Can't say it anymore. Heaven forbid. And so like that was just a nice reminder that, you know, that God, we were talking about how like God, like it's like why he can't leave us, like he's not going to leave us on purpose, and if we trust in him we're not going to be disappointed. And then we were talking about like if we didn't stress, and we were kind of having a discussion whether stress was good or bad. Some people were saying that stress, we think that without stress, you know, we'd probably perform a lot better in like our everyday things. But then some people were saying that stress is kind of necessary, or else like, you know, we wouldn't be encouraged to work at our best, I guess. Or if we weren't worried, we wouldn't care about anything. We're also discussing about how our worries these days they have to do with ourselves and not so much with other people. And that's something that we can do to combat that is serve others. When we're serving others, we kind of become more concerned about the other person instead of ourselves. And then from that, we were kind of discussing how historically we feel like compared to like the people in the past, we have a lot less to worry about. Everything's kind of a lot easier for us. But these days, like, you know about what's happening in everyone else's life, so it's very easy to compare and you feel like you have things to stress about. Like if you're seeing other people, you know, like getting married and buying houses and stuff on not like on Facebook, and you're not, you're not getting married or buying a house, you feel a lot of that pressure. But if you didn't see that on your Facebook or your Instagram, you wouldn't kind of stress about it. Yeah, and that's kind of where we left it.
Thanks, Maureen.
Hey, I told you guys to help me out, but no one interrupted.
You didn't need help. You're doing great.
Oh, okay.
Was that it for that group? Yeah. All right. Next group. So we're talking about like what Christ said about worrying. Who did this one?
Group 2, Abuna.
Go for it.
Okay. So the first part of this group 2 questions was what do you typically worry about? So I think this ties into what Maureen was saying before. So basic things are relationships, career, your health, university, school, grades, finances, your family's well-being. How people perceive you, being complacent, and I wrote something, but I didn't finish the sentence, so I'm not going to say that. Projecting that stress or worry onto other family members through anger or through frustration. Your social interactions, it could impede on your social interactions. You could have a loss of appetite, having negative thoughts or outlooks on life, and you become consumed by all the bad things or all the worry that you're going through, and it hinders us from doing our daily tasks. The next part was, what did Christ say about worrying? And there's so many things in the Bible about worry, and there's actually so God tells us not to fear, or like, do not be afraid, do not worry. He tells us, like, there's verses in those Bibles, and it comes up 365 times in the Bible. So that's like one verse for every day of the year, except for a leap year, which Ferdy kindly pointed out for us, where in that case, just repeat one of the verses that you had before. So some verses, Abuna gave us this verse, which was Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 to 34. It's a bit of a long verse, so it's actually a very beautiful verse. I'll read it out. Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Which of you, by worrying, can add 1 cubit to his stature? That's not the whole verse. Sorry, I don't have it here. There's another verse in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 to 7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Another verse in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. Come unto me, all you that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. The book of John, chapter 14, 27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. So that's just a few. And there's a quote by Pope Shenouda, which I don't know if it was the same one that Maureen said, but it's, we know not what the future holds, but one thing we know, and that is that the future is in the hand of God, which is very beautiful. And that's group 2's discussion.
Very nice.
Good job, Steph.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, let's go to group 3. Talking about how to stop worrying. It was
Okay,
group 3.
my group. I was with Paula, Marina, Ilaria, Jolie, and Philo. So Abuna gave us the Bible verse, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ. So we broke this down into 3 parts, and we made note of the fact that this Bible verse says to be anxious about nothing, and we made emphasis on the word nothing as a reminder that there's nothing God can't handle. And Marina pointed out something really nice in that this verse asks us to be thankful and so the way we can apply this is to be thankful for what we do have and not to focus on what we don't have. And lastly, that the part of the verse that says surpasses all understanding is that God knows what's going to happen before we do. And as humans, we have limited knowledge. So everyone kind of mentioned the things we typically worried about, but some of the things we also had was things about the news, friends. Also, Paul made a really good point in that sometimes we start to worry about like our Orthodox faith and how much other people are being influenced by the world's opinions and how much the world wants to change. Yeah, so everyone has different things that they worry about depending on where they are in their life. And how to stop the cycle, we just made a list of things. So you can distract yourself. So depending on who you are, if you are kind of person that would rather be distracted, like you can just stop watching the news, for example, if that's stressing you out. Talked about the Jesus prayer, talking to people, acting on the issue, which is a lot easier said than done. And finally, we just made the point that if you think about it, you probably haven't ever met anyone that has fully trusted in God's plan and God let them down. So yeah, the key, I guess, is to just fully trust in God's plan. And yeah, that's it for us.
Very nice. Thanks, Mick. The last group, I think that's Tobes and Josh and Mary, I think.
Yep, that's.
Bulas.
I'm doing the talking, unfortunately.
تفضل.
Funnily enough, I'm very worried about what I'm going to say. Sorry, let me get the notes up. Okay, so we spoke about how we can trust in God in situations of worry, and a few of the things we outlined were that we worry based on our own perspective on a situation, and God is greater than all of us and of time. We only really know part of the picture, so like it could end up being an amazing future, but we take things out of perspective, I guess, based on what we're feeling in the time, like our emotions and stuff, and we overthink things. I know personally, for myself, I constantly overthink and blow things out of proportion, and we don't really know what's going to happen on the other side. We looked at past experiences. We discussed a few of our own past experiences and how we got through them and how God had our backs in those times. And that kind of like gives us hope that we can kind of get through the next situation. Having God by your side doesn't eliminate the problem. It makes them bearable. So we always know that we're going to face hardships and we're going to constantly have pressure and emotions that consistently put us down, depending obviously on how much we overthink. But we know that those are always going to come and there was going to be obstacles and hardships, but God is always there to help us. I didn't mention this in the breakout room, but I forgot. I had my screensaver. I had a really nice quote. Sorry, let me just get that. It was by Saint Paisios of Mount Athos, and he says, "Completely have trust in God. Leave everything and it keeps going. Leave everything in his hands and believe that his love will act for your own benefit. Then God will take care of everything because there is nothing he cannot do. Everything is easy for him, and the difficult thing is for man to decide to humble himself and leave everything to God's providence and love. Where was I? We also spoke about how the church is our foundation, and it's never changing. We always have circumstances that change who we are. We could even have like different ways in which we change within ourselves. Our personality can differ, but everyone in the end of the day comes back to God, and we have sacraments that don't change. We live our lives in church, and we have a God that never changes. Everything around us is stable in that environment, which in turn makes us stable. Next thing we covered was, who is God to me in these distressing times of worry? We said comforter, and God is life. The only life we live is a life with Christ. If this world is going to wither away, our mind is set on Christ, and nothing is worth worrying about. A focal point, sense of direction and compass. Also, when God says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Last but not least, who are we to God? And we said we are his children and loved by him. So obviously he's our father, and he wouldn't let any obstacle kind of tear us down. And if we stick by him, then he'll always kind of get us through those hardships, and we are conquerors through him. And yeah.
Thanks, Abulis.
Thanks, Abuna.
Thanks, guys. One last thing, guys, before we wrap up, okay? I want you guys to think about this, okay? Become warriors, not warriors. Okay? Become warriors with a sword, not warriors, putting your sword down. Okay?
Can you bring that back?
Sure. I just saw Abba on the camera there. Where's Abba, Dave?
He's running away. He's a bit camera shy, apparently.
That's all right. A couple of things, guys. Okay, we shouldn't. Your discussion, Yanni, was spot on. I couldn't say any more, but I'm just reiterating what you guys said, just to add to the discussion. Number one is that we shouldn't worry at all. Okay. And number two is we be anxious for nothing. These not my words, these are the words of the Bible. Christ says, don't worry about tomorrow. Okay. And what I think Steph mentioned it in one of the verses, that worrying doesn't add to anything in your stature. Yeah, it doesn't add to your life anything. Rather it takes away. Okay. And St. Paul, someone who we trust a lot in the Bible, as we know, he wrote almost half of the New Testament, or more than half of the New Testament. Okay, he said, "Be anxious for nothing." Okay, but in everything, prayer and supplication. So it's important for us that when we come to I asked Myrna this question: should we make time for worrying? Do we tell ourselves, what if I worry for this for 5 minutes, and then for the rest of the day or for the rest of the week, I'm not going to worry at all? That was Myrna's answer, not mine. Okay. But what if maybe we gave time to worry for a little bit? Of course, this is something, not won't say against the Bible, because then we'll be heretics. But what if we spent 5 minutes worrying about everything that's going to happen, and then after that we live a life of we live a life of joy, we live a life of fearlessness, so we don't fear anything, and we pray, and once we worry, after that we pray and we say, Lord, I just worried about 1, 2, and 3. Make sure that you're with me with 1, 2, and 3 and all that stuff, and you continue with your day, so that worrying, when you start to worry about certain things, we don't worry about them during the day and we waste time. We're only wasting 5 minutes of the 24 hours in our day. Okay. And then during the day, we entertain healthy thoughts, and we move away from the negative, the negative thoughts that might impact our day. And then everything that comes in our day or in our week or over the month, for example, we start to live gratefully, and we start to see things in a positive manner. So I want you guys to take something to take away from tonight, is that we become warriors. Okay. And a warrior has a defense mechanism. He's got a defense and an offense. Okay. His defense is something that will defend against those attacks. If we're talking now about, if the devil attacks us with a worry, we can defend against that. So Jesus' prayer, Bible verses, we say again, be anxious for nothing. Okay. I can tell myself, Isaac, it's time to, don't worry too much about this and move on. Okay. And that we don't worry about, those certain little things that we worry about, just move on. I know it's hard. I know sometimes it can be difficult, but with practice and when we focus ourselves to go on the right path, eventually we'll be able to, knock out anything that comes in our path. Okay. God bless you guys. You guys did really well. So I think from what we'll from tonight, might start a new series called, I don't know if it's called, but revolving around the things that pull us down. Okay. And then maybe one week here, and then another week, things that bring myself up. We'll try and revolve the series around more personal, spiritual kind of thing. Okay. Hopefully that can, and it will be bardo discussion based and get you guys to talk a lot more. Okay. Because I know for one person talking is a bit boring, so should be okay. Okay. Any comments or questions, or any recommendations on series or things that you guys want to hear? I don't mind. Any announcements from?
We have a new Instagram page.
Mabruk.
I'll put the @ in the chat. We're called the Wonder Workers now. Follow us, everyone.